The one I'm in. I got that Boostello in my cup again. Jim Carrey with this hand going dumb again. Me, myself, and I, the only thing I'm up against.
Coffee Table Talks.
I'm arena bottle water date night favorite. My bodega on the corner, I ain't even saying it. They already know my order, they just started making it. Whoa, whoa. Alright, ain't no other city make me feel this way. I've been all around the world, baby, but I'm here to stay. Ain't no other city make me feel this way. I've been all around the world, baby, but I'm here to stay. There's no place like uptown. Alright, ain't no other city make me feel this way. I've been all around the world, baby, but I'm here to stay. There's no place like uptown, New York.
Coffee Table Talks.
Hello, welcome back to Coffee Table Talks on One Love Radio. This is your girl Tay and Pen Johnny. Welcome, listeners. Miss P, do you want to go ahead and introduce our guest tonight?
Much obliged. I'm so excited about today. I'm really excited about our guest. We should have had her a long time ago, but all things work together for good, and the timing is perfect in God's hands. So anyway, without much further ado, the woman that we have in the studio has such a remarkable story. I do not want to say so much about her myself. I will let her introduce herself. Hey!
Hi.
But you have to do kadiongo, like a small little something, yeah.
All right. So today we have the lady Dr. Harriet Mulumbenji
Janet
Sakala.
Charlotte Sakala.
You see?
All right, say that again.
Harriet Mulumbenji. Janet Charlotte Sakala.
I like it.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think that all your names represent you very well, girl.
Oh.
Yeah, but she's really just fondly called Dr. Harriet. And to many others, just Harriet. So today we are sharing her remarkable story. She recently made medical doctor. Isn't God good?
And you have to tell us the history, because I know there's a history.
Yes,
okay.
the journey.
Yes.
And she's actually joining us today on the show is actually titled Sticking on Course.
Staying on course.
Staying on course. Yes.
Hallelujah.
Stay the course, no matter how long it takes. And
Yes.
for her, I think what makes her remarkable, somebody out there may be wondering, there's so many medical doctors out there, or a lot of them graduated this year. But today, as ladies of Coffee Table Talks, we felt that we should host this lovely lady because, something about her story resonates a little bit more. There are many other special stories out there, but for Harriet, your journey to medical doctor was how many years long?
10.
10.
Wow.
About 10.
Yeah.
Actually,
10.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more than 10. So before we get into the journey and the story, please tell us a little bit about Harriet. Who are you? Where'd you come from? Who are your parents? Any siblings? Are you married? All of those things.
Okay. My name's Harriet, and the many other names. I am the second born in a family of 4. I am the daughter to Dr. Clement Sakala, and my mother is Christine Sakala as well. So yeah, that's me shortly.
Nice. How many siblings in total do you have?
We're 4.
You're 4.
Yeah, 2 girls and 2 guys.
All right.
Awesome.
Where did you do your schooling? Tell us about your nursery and primary and secondary education, and then finally into university.
Okay, so that's a long journey. Okay, I did my nursery school from a school called Bubbles. Yeah,
Does it still exist?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe like,
It's maybe not.
Right.
yeah, but well, I'll go and check on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a school. It was I think in Nyumbayanga. Yeah, I think that was my nursery school. After that, I had gone to what's this place? This one here. Guerrero. Yeah, for like just grade 1 and grade 2. Then I went to audition or sign up rather in Roa Treetops. I didn't get in.
Aw,
Yeah, I know. Really sad.
it is well. They don't know what they missed. Kidding.
And then I went to St. Mary's. Yes, so I've been at St. Mary's for the past, I was at St. Mary's for the past 12 years. Yeah,
Right.
from my grade 1 all through to grade 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I own the school.
Ah. I own the school.
Yeah.
You need like a title deed as well.
I think so.
I
Yes.
think so too.
Uh-huh.
So at which point in the journey, in that 12, at which point during that 12 years did you begin to feel the call to
Do what I do.
medical,
To do- yeah.
medicine?
Okay, so it really wasn't at school. When I was born, I think 2 years into me growing up, I was diagnosed with asthma. So I've been asthmatic for like the whole of my life. So as I grew up, I was in and out of hospital. So it really wasn't school related. Yeah. So you'd find I'd go into the hospital in the morning, admitted, and maybe discharged the next day, and then the very night I'm back. Yeah, in hospital, in and out. So I think it started then, maybe subtle. And then I think as we progressed, or rather as I grew, I had many interactions with different medical doctors. One of them that stand out for me is a Professor Shilaluki Ngoma today. She's a professor. Yeah, so she was awesome. She's always been awesome. She still is there. Yeah. So at the time, when I had experience with her or just the hospital environment, that's how I think it kind of subtly came into my mind to do medicine. But I think one thing that I remember though is there's a time I was admitted into a hospital, and there was a group of nurses and this particular doctor, and I think they had made some comments about me which just hurt me at the time, because I was a bit on the chubbier side. Well, still am. So they had made a comment which kind of offended me, and think in my mind I was like, if I am to be in this world or the world of medicine, I would like to be a different kind of doctor, to always make sure that my patients kind of feel whole when they leave instead of scarred. So, yeah,
Wow.
that's the idea.
You know what's so special about what you said is that if those who know anything about Harriet will realize that when all is said and done, there is not a day when you spend time with Harriet and you don't leave feeling whole
That's
or
good.
better about
And that's what
yourself.
doctors are supposed to do.
Yeah, it's life. It's ministering life back holistically, not just with your knowledge of medicine and prescription, but it's about the smiles and how you make somebody feel. I watched a movie sometime last year about this medical doctor a pediatrician. There was a child who had it was just a crazy condition and all, and I saw how a lot of times when somebody's condition even just gets to a place where medicine won't work, they try to stimulate you, whether with smiles or positivity, just to get something in your body going to give you a fighting chance again.
Yeah.
And for me, that always makes me say about you that you will be a great doctor. You are a great doctor. Yeah. So
yeah, so we're talking about staying with it. So I don't know where we want to start, or your career, when you started. We talked about why you wanted to be a doctor, but quick question: how many times did you want to quit?
Are you sure you want me to count?
No, it's good because people need to know those things, because I wanted to be a doctor,
Okay.
and then
you quit before you began.
somewhere
Uh-huh.
my undergrad, I said, maybe not. Maybe I can find an alternative route. But I think for me, it was more like people used to say, oh, you're smart, you should be a doctor. So I'm like, yeah, You know, you go through, and then after all, you're like, no, it's. But also, I also was thinking of time, and which is just when you look back, you're like, oh, time is it moves by so quickly. But how many times, like for you, and you finished? I know lots of people have started something and just not finished it. So maybe you can let us know how many times you wanted to quit, whether it was the first year or the.
Okay. Let's see.
You can start from being accepted into university.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay. Fine. So we can go. Yeah. Okay. That's reason because really, I probably wanted to quit way before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before you started.
Yeah.
I'm
I was
about
like-
to pick my mouth.
I'm like, but you haven't even started.
I know. I think it starts with a thought. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
So you
Oh,
think
I like
about
that.
it, yeah, and you process it, and like you said, you think of the time, like, oh my God, it's going to be 7 years, and then after which you think, okay, maybe not, maybe there'll be closures as you get closer to the school, yeah, and so you think about all that, and then you also think of possible financial strain. You think of health. So at the time, I really wasn't healthy, and I would always, yeah, like I said, be admitted in and out. So that's a factor. You just think, okay, so will I make the second admission? Will I make it out of hospital? So should I go this route? But to put a number to it, I really can't put a number. Yeah, I had possibly given up so many times, but I wouldn't tell anyone because the idea is that I've always wanted to be a doctor for a very long time. Possibly been primed since I was little. I remember making some presentation about asthma when I was very little. I think I should have been around about 10, 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's at home, rather. So my dad's a very presentation man. Yeah, so we used to make a few presentations at home. And that's the first presentation I remember till this day, that I was drawing the lungs and the respiratory system, and I was making a presentation at home. And so ever since I was like, let me get into science.
Right.
So funny enough, seeing blood wasn't an issue for me. So one would think that maybe the thought of blood would have stopped me, but no, it didn't. So to answer your question, it was many times. A time I remember is maybe first year, when I was in my first year. So firstly, when I got admitted into the School of Natural Sciences, there was already people saying that that's a very hard school. And I think before I went in, I think a month before, I was with 2 friends of mine, and one of them was already in the School of Natural Sciences. And what he said was that, are you sure you want to come into natural sciences? Because there you're just going to come and visit. You're going to be a tourist.
Wow.
And so to me that was scary. I was like, okay, so maybe I shouldn't go this route. Maybe I should do something else. But then I think the thought of where I came from and the sacrifices that were made by my family and everyone else, I just thought, let me do this. And it's been a dream ever since I was little. Everybody knows that I always said I want to be a doctor. Yeah, it's never changed, except the time maybe I wanted to be a singer.
But you can always, like Uku, you can be doing surgery, no queen, but
I know.
and recording your album in the theater.
Yes. Finding inspiration in theater.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
I'm sure you found me and Miss Fia always talking about, I'm always like, I need to hear Harriet's view on a certain spiritual issue because you're so, you're backed up with science and stuff like that, and just the human body is so amazing. Like you see a lot of correlation between scripture and the human body. I'm always like, I want to hear what Harriet has to say about.
Wait for us to get to that part.
Yeah, but it's amazing, and I think a lot of people need to hear stories like that, because when you see a doctor, you just think, it's hard, but you don't know maybe the naysayers at the beginning. I remember just in primary school, when you're going to grade 6, you have this fear. You're even asking for in grade 6, so how is grade 6?
it's
How?
hard.
It's hard. Then when you go in there, you're like,
Okay.
it's not that hard. You know what I mean? So even the courage to step out there, even though people told you, you're going to do this, just to say, I'm moving at my own pace and I'm going to do it. And that's I think that's what makes doctors, when they finish, made out of tough stuff because you have stuff
Absolutely.
that comes against you. Yeah.
I would like to know why 10 years? How come 10 years?
Okay, 10 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I get into School of Natural Sciences, and then it's, as everybody has said, it's just crazy. You have your classes really full, and when people are there in the School of Natural Sciences, you know that it's really two main streams that maybe someone thought of when they were going there. Except there are many other streams which are as important, but that's your initial thought that, okay, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, or computer sciences and stuff. So I got in there hoping, that one day I'll be this doctor and I will be a pediatrician and I will help the young people, help kids, and give them some inspiration as well, and also just ask God to help me in healing, to be His vessel. So I get in, and initially there's this course, M111, which is your math course, which is a crazy course in the School of Natural Sciences for me. So I get in, and that was very hard for me. So into 2 years, you're supposed to be med-cotted. That's what they call it. So you get in and you're cotted into the this first crop that can get into medical school. But I didn't do too well in my math at the time, but I still made it nonetheless. So I didn't get cotted into med-cotter, the famous med-cotter. So that was the first part, or the first time that just made me think, can I do this?
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so this has really killed you. And then the thought of that friend of mine who said, maybe you're there to just be a tourist, came to my mind. I was like, maybe I'm there. So that was like the first negative thought that came to my mind, that maybe I'm just there to show up in first year and go and maybe not progress. So I didn't make it to med-cotter. So instead, I decided to take another route. I said I'm going to do a Bachelor of Science. Yeah. So that's how I got my first degree. So my first Bachelor of Science was in entomology and parasitology. Why that is because I was hoping that I could get something closest to medicine. Yes, so I thought, parasitology, malaria, yes, I can do. At some point, I actually went and settled and went to see the now late Professor, forget her name. I went to see her for the prospects of doing medical parasitology, that maybe I can get close to the field. But somehow God didn't agree. He just said, I will do it, which is a field that I love thoroughly, actually. And it's possibly something that I'll do later on. So I got into it. I finished my entomology and parasitology. The delay, though, in doing that program is that I got unwell again. So I had to withdraw from school, and which was one of the hardest times of my life, I think. I think I got broken because I was like, firstly, the dream is gone. I didn't make it into med-cotter. I guess I'm not smart enough. Those are the thoughts that were coming to my mind. And secondly, it's like I'm not physically ready to get into it or to do it. I mean, I can't even finish my first degree. I ended up ill. So the time that I had to make a decision to withdraw from school on health grounds was one of the hardest times I remember. Because I remember the day before I had series of tests, and I remember my father having to wait for me downstairs. I was in the lecture room when we were having a test, and he was there waiting on me, and I was having an attack at the time, an asthmatic attack. But I said that I needed to go. I needed to write. It was so evident that I wasn't well. But I insisted that I needed to go and write my test, because I couldn't think that I have to miss another test because I'm unwell. Yeah. So I went there, and Dad was waiting downstairs. Yay, Dad.
Aww.
So he was waiting downstairs, and the lecturer just looked at me and says, "You're not well. Why are you here?" And I think I was teary-eyed and said, "I need to write. I need to write this exam to at least make it to something. Like I should have some sense of completion." And they said, "Okay, fine. You know what? In your state, you need to write in a separate room." So he opened his office and said, "You write in my office." And it just got worse. It got bad, so I couldn't complete that test. Immediately after that, I was rushed to our local clinic, which is the University of Zambia Clinic. And at that point, they had rushed me in an ambulance to UTH. That's where I was admitted for a couple of days. And still while there, I insisted that I needed my books with me. And so I'm there in hospital, and it looks weird that I'm still having these thick textbooks, hoping to read and finish. And it was, so we had to go home and have the talk with the family that, maybe you should withdraw. Yeah. Maybe just stop here for now, and then you can rejoin next year, complete your course, and we'll go on from there. So that was very hard for me, but it happened. So I withdrew from school, so that was one delay. Yeah. So instead of the usual 4, I went to 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Then after which I had, when I went back, I went back about 6 months later. I went back and I ended up finishing my program. It was so awesome, and it was just amazing that God had saved my life, or at least answered that prayer that I should finish. So we finished, and I had a graduation, my first graduation.
Yeah.
Yes, so I was like Bachelor of Science, Entomology and Parasitology. Yay! And I had so much support from my family and friends. It was just amazing. I was like, okay, God is good. But you see, you always think God is good at that point. You don't know that He can be greater.
Oh.
It was just amazing. So for me, that was my end. That, okay, thank you, Lord. You've been so awesome, so amazing. It was just beyond me that I could wear a gown and, just receive my first degree. And then I would sit. But prior to that, there was a call for an application for research assistance, which was by a certain organization in Glasgow. So I applied and prayed and hoped that God would open that door for me, because really I had settled to say, this is my field. I'm going to apply in my field, and I'm going to work in my field. And after this, I'll do a master's in medical parasitology and entomology, and I'll progress from there. Really, medicine was, okay, fine. Maybe this is my path.
Right.
Yeah. But God said, no. Let's do this a different way. He used the longer route. So I did get the job. Thank God. I was shortlisted out of a large number of people, got the job. It was a part-time job. So I was there. So how did I get to apply? Was a miracle on its own. So I had when I was taking my break, my lunch break, I decided to go upstairs to get my detailed transcript so that I could apply for more jobs. Yes. So I went upstairs and bumped into a friend of ours who was there at the university, and he was like, "Oh, do you know that there are applications to med school?" Then I laughed.
Because for you it was like,
yes, I know.
forgotten about it.
Yeah,
And then God
I'm
just
done. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a complete by the way. Then I was like, no, I didn't know. No, you can apply. I was like, okay. So the first thought that came to my mind was like, I laughed and said, okay, God, you're funny. And then I thought about the fees and everything else that comes with it. Every cost, where will I stay? Will I manage this medical school? I recently withdrew from school because I was unwell. And what will stop me from withdrawing again because I'm unwell again? So, yeah. But I went home, and I remember the application at that time was 120. So I went home and just said, the applications. And I remember a statement which we still use this till this day that my father had made, that if you put your foot in the door, just put your foot in the door and everything else will sort itself out.
I like that.
So
Yeah.
I applied, yes, and got accepted.
And this was how long after you had thrown the dream to the back?
Oh, behind there.
Yes.
Yeah, very far.
Don't even know where it is. You're like, okay, Lord. Yes. And this was how long?
Okay. Well, I completed, and then I got the job just a few months in. So it really was just a space of under 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, but mentally, I already resigned to it, because remember I had a whole year to
mentally.
be at home.
Yeah.
Mentally, it was in
Yeah.
the back.
Yes.
You hadn't even buried it. You're just like,
I
God.
was like, so this is my life plan now. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this other course, and this is how it will pan out, because clearly medicine was not for me
Oh.
Wow.
at that time.
So now fast forward, you get accepted into the into med school,
Yes.
and it was like,
I know.
how?
Yes. So I received I applied, and then I went to I went to see Professor Ngoma, and to say I want to be in med school. No, actually I saw her after. So I get the response that, yay, I've made it to med school, but I can only join in as self-sponsored because the government can't sponsor me. So I went and applied for bursaries. Even there, it didn't work out. No, we can't sponsor you because you finished. And because of the initial withdrawal from school, so they had to compensate the next year. So it was like, no, sorry, we are done. We can't sponsor you anymore. So it was family issues. We couldn't do it. So everything just said, when the application came, yay, we were happy and excited. But there was the elephant in the room, the white elephant, to say there's this part. So anyway, I get in and make all the forms of applications, which didn't work out, especially even for the scholarships. So that continued to pull the spirit down to say, will I do this? And then I remember the deadline was on a Thursday, and we had to pay. And we had no place to get the money from. And just the way I applied for it is the way there's a professor in where my dad used to school sent an email, and we just lamented to say, this is what's going on. She's been accepted into med school and the like. So it was just a conversation. And from the bottom of her heart, she just said, let me pay for her entries. It happened as a miracle in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
Yes, I remember just thinking to say, okay, I tried. I applied.
You put your foot in
Yeah,
the door.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
So that's how it went.
And then it was 5 years later.
Yeah, 5 years later, with a lot of ups and downs, a lot of tears, crying.
Was there
Is
any
that from
exclusion
study?
at this point? Oh yeah, that's another good question.
Is the crying from study?
Yes. Unfailing.
And no one knows these stories.
No.
They don't know that the doctor had some crying sessions. Oh no, scheduled crying sessions. You're in class and you're like, I don't have time to cry.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's you. That's you. That
No,
is so
Harriet, I know that this happened to
No,
you.
I agree.
Yes. All because you
can
have
do
a
it in
busy
class.
schedule, so you need to cry.
Oh,
So you
man.
schedule,
But
you
you
put
can't
it on
cry
your
now.
schedule. Martin, before you sleep.
Yes, we will be strong for now.
But later.
10, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
But
saying at
have a
10
break.
o'clock.
10 o'clock, and then you even look at the time. Okay.
Okay, it's time.
It's time to
Oh man, the
Yeah.
journey is something. The journey
Process.
is something. Process.
Mm-hmm.
And the place that people don't see. I remember that pictograph I sent you the other
Yes.
day, where people just see the success. Imagine an iceberg.
Yeah.
So they see the top and success, but at the bottom, it's so people don't know
It's
the
an
story.
iceberg.
There's
Yeah.
financial oh, are there heartbreaks in there? And then
And process is good.
yeah,
And I think because Harriet, you're gonna make a fine doctor because of what you went through.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if it was maybe, I always feel like whenever I see, sometimes it's people who've got like a silver spoon in their mouth that tend to be, not all the time, but tend to be a bit up there. Or people can do the opposite because they've gone through such hard times. They're proud
Right.
when they come out. But just knowing you and how humble you, the first time I met Harriet, I didn't even know she was in med school. Some people would have been referencing every 2 minutes. Pantuku. That's what we learn in med school. That's what, and they're just like,
Okay.
but I didn't even know
Right.
that you were in school to be a doctor, and already that shows humility, because that's what doctors are there to do, to serve. And I always liken them to even pastors. Pastors deal with your spiritual,
Yes.
but doctors deal with the physical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like it's such a noble calling, and the process enables you to serve better and to understand people better.
Right.
And I love how you said that sometimes I was failing and stuff like that. So you realize that you're human, you're not this invincible person who knows everything.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, so the process.
Process is tough.
Yes.
Process is tough. But thank God this time around there was no withdrawal.
No, there was no withdrawal on medical grounds. That is, yeah. So
Even though there were health complications at some point.
yes,
Right,
yes,
right.
there were. Because I think in your first bit or your first years, you have the time when you have to go into a place. So there's like a lot of chemicals. Apparently, it's a doctor's secret. So
Right,
I can't say where you go. So
Yeah.
but there are many chemicals, and so
Yeah.
that made me react to it. But yeah, we made it. There was no withdrawal from school, but there were definitely many ups and downs.
Right.
Yes, when I got into med school, my third year, initially I was like, oh my God, how will I manage to see a dead body? How am I going to manage to actually get in there and touch something that's not alive? So
I'm just, I just imagine like someone just fainting, like a straight faint.
no, actually, no. I actually had a scheduled fainting.
Oh,
I
I
remember
can't
the day.
faint now. I'll faint later. Harriet, I love you. You're just organized. No time for.
You need to plan.
You need to plan these things.
Okay,
The
alright.
fainting, the breakdowns. Yes. Go ahead.
Except that one was supposed to come before. So I remember the day I was supposed to get into the room. And I was like, today I'm going to faint. I've never fainted before, but I'm going to faint. Because I don't know how to respond
Yes,
to seeing these things. So, but thank God there was no fainting involved.
Oh.
Yeah, I made it through to the other side. Which made me think that most of the times we are really afraid of things that we don't know. We create a story in our head that's so big. It's like, the monster in the closet. It's huge. And yet when you open, maybe it's a lizard or something. Yes, because we created. So I created
Wait.
Yes.
Can you go back
Okay.
and
Go
address
back.
that fear thing there? Yes.
So yes, so I created this huge monster in my closet. Med school is this mountain that I cannot conquer. I was ready to fail actually in my mind. So I failed in my mind.
Like the pre fainting.
Yes,
pre-failing.
Yes, pre-failing.
So
Wow.
I was like, I was going to go there, and yes, I would have made it to med school. But is it possible that someone like me, who didn't
Wow.
even make it in that previous course of mine, can make it through med school? How possible is it that someone like me?
Battlefield of
Of
the mind.
Yes.
Oh, that's where it all happens.
Yes. And it was such a fight actually, but these are fights that you never really expose.
Yes.
Everyone just sees you and like, oh my God,
Very
you're in med school.
composed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yet it's something that you fight every single day of your life. I think till this day, every time I'm going to the ward,
Wow.
I'm asking myself, is this day going to be good? I need to pray and ask God, okay, no one should die.
I want to be your
today.
patient. No, wait.
No, you would just
There's no
tour.
getting sick.
You would tour the place
Okay.
too. Yes.
Okay, I cancel
Just saying
whatever
hello.
I say.
I mean,
Yeah.
just saying
Yeah,
hello.
but you see, sometimes you can be so good, people want to be in your hands.
Yeah. Or or maybe when she's delivering a
It's
baby
not
or
getting
something.
Okay, we can
Yeah.
plan that.
Yeah,
That's the
that's-
unfair thing about life, hey. So then she goes through the process and suddenly she's got the right to see me in my most vulnerable state.
I'm sorry.
You and I, nothing. Life. But you see, that's a powerful lesson right there.
Uh-huh.
When you go through it, the process qualifies you.
Yeah, it
I'm
does.
gonna
Yeah.
stand up right now.
Yeah.
Okay, stand.
Stand.
She's standing.
Okay, she's standing. She really is standing.
She's standing. But the process.
Yeah.
Qualifies,
it qualifies
you. Wow.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the most tangible lessons that you learned in the 10 years, both the good and the bad? I think we've already looked at the issue of, conquering the battlefield of the mind. That one I think has been quite significant. What other lessons did you learn over the 10-year period?
I think another one is that I learned the power of a good support system. Okay, so you're in your own lane, and you're saying this is my vision and this is my goal and this is where I want to be.
Right.
But then there's everybody around you. There's those ones throwing sticks and stones in your lane, and there's also those ones who are cheering you on. I think I had very good support system in
Wow.
terms of family and friends. Then those ones that say, okay, today was a bad day, let's go to the next one. Okay, today this paper was bad, forget about this one, go to the next one.
Yeah.
So I think in your journey or in a journey of life or to your dream, you never forget everybody else around you who's cheering you on. And the very people that throw stones at you, those are the stones that you can actually stand on and go to the next level. So I learned about the people around us as well that play a very big role.
And you know the funny thing, I love the way you said the sticks, use that to build yourself, you know. And I'm sure, Harriet, you've learned how to have thick skin as a doctor, and I don't know how the senior doctors speak to you, but she's like but I do know, like, I don't know, it says because I guess doctors, it's like a fraternity or a sorority of some sort, so they're always like trying to make sure when you get up there you don't crumble or you see a case and you just
No, actually, unscheduled
and
fainting.
boom. Eva, doctor, this is your doctor,
Guys.
but you know, like, how did that, when you first went into school and then people, maybe some seniors talked to you horribly, how did you manage the criticism and pick out, and how did you pick out what you need and, you know, discard what is maybe, you know, whatever, like you don't need that?
Okay. So I'm remembering the first time. So I think that day, after I was spoken to roughly, for lack of a better term, I went to my room and I think I sulked. I was alone at the time. My roommate wasn't there and I cried. I was like, how can someone talk to me like this? Why this? Then I realized that this is life. Okay, so everything that I did, I had to do it right, because any mistake that I make is life and death. So
yeah.
I turned around and thought to myself, okay, fine, so maybe this beating, however unnecessary I thought it was at the time, can turn into something good. Maybe now I'll be very particular with the things that I do and with the questions that I ask my patients and how I interpret those questions. So eventually I just thought to myself, I made that another tool for me. I said, okay, fine, we'll make it, it'll make me better, or to be a better medical practitioner.
Right.
Yeah. But it's not easy.
It's not,
I can only imagine. I mean, I also want to know how you handle the emotional side of things. 10 years is a long time. In 10 years, some of your friends have moved on and have gotten married and have got children and this and that. How do you handle that, especially being a woman?
Okay. So this, maybe we can put it as this picture in a frame in your room. Everyone else's life is going on. Then you come back and you look at that picture to say, this is my map and this is my journey. So sadly is that we don't look at our maps from a bird's eye view. We look at it per mountain. Every mountain that you have to cross, you don't know whether there's another one coming. So I know that God sees it as a bird's eye view. And so you go back and you look at this picture in your room, as in this is just a figurative picture,
Right.
to say, this is my dream, this is my map, this is where I'm going. Okay, it would be nice to have stopped at some point and let other life issues happen. But
Yes.
I am going on and I need to reach this dream that has always been a dream. And I think it would be a total waste to actually think of everything that I go through. Of course, here you can't say everything, but
Yeah.
everything that you go through,
Yeah.
and then eventually not make it to your dream.
Yeah.
So this is the issue of vision
Okay.
and knowing that this is where I'm going, and that as everything comes together, God puts pieces together. It's a whole puzzle, hey? And each point is a piece of a puzzle.
Stay
So-
contained.
Okay.
Taylor. Stay
Sorry.
contained.
Harriet, the way you okay, carry on. Carry on.
No, it's fine. Speak.
Then I'm listening.
Okay. What are you sensing, Tahila?
No, that bird's eye view thing.
Yeah.
I actually visually saw the mountain to mountain,
Yes.
and the ones who look at life mountain to mountain it's hard for them to get that longevity, that staying power.
Oh.
But your bird's eye view, you know that okay, there's Kitwe.
Yeah.
I know I'm here in Kabwe, but I'm gonna get there. But the one who's small and is in Kabwe, in the town,
Doesn't know.
can't see Kitwe.
That's true.
So they're thinking, oh my gosh, this mountain, blah blah blah.
By the time I get over
Yes, but when you're up there, you know what? Then maybe that's why God wants us to be like eagles, eh?
it. Yeah.
Eagles are always at the top,
Yeah.
trying to
Bird's eye
eye
view.
view.
Nice.
Yeah. So when you were saying that, I got slain.
Oh,
Oh.
Like I fell.
okay.
Yes, it's
The
just like
real
Tamuyama Asha's Muno. So I don't know if you listeners heard the third, but that was me on the ground. But that is amazing, and I just got that visual of that mountain to mountain. Like
Wow.
today, maybe today your mountain is an amount, Penjani, that is too. The Lord has said that amount is pocket change to you. Where I'm taking you, that is like.
But here where I
But where it
am,
looks like a mountain,
insurmountable, yes.
and then God is saying, no, come high.
So
that you can
God
see.
wants us to tap into the eagle's eye view.
Yes.
Come and see it from my vantage point.
Yes, so
Lord,
that you can
I tap into your vantage point.
and so that you
Hallelujah.
can go on. Because, like, you know, when we think about these people in the Bible and their stories, they look so nice when we're
Yeah.
reading.
Yes, they do.
And to look at Moses, it took him how many years? In the wilderness, how many years? Just to go back and do. So it's this time, and God has asked this man to stay with him. You know what I mean? So it's having that God's vision over certain things, and or even companies, all these multi-million-dollar companies, they've got this bigger vision,
Yes.
you know, so and then they break their vision down small, but they know that
Right.
by
Right.
in
Bite
10 years
size.
we need to get, and that's where we need to get as country. But anyway, yeah, go ahead, Harriet.
That's beautiful, and we
Yeah.
actually even see it even in the story that she's sharing.
Yes.
Only that sometimes the bite-sized chopping down, we don't see it. It's like God has already done it for us, and we just have to look into it. What do I mean? Her journey was 10 years. She never would have known that the first chunk of the first bite size was entomology and
Yeah.
parasitology.
Yes,
And
but
then
it was
the next
on
one is 2
plan.
years. Huh?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
the two
You do
into
preclinicals.
pre-clinicals, and
Yes.
you get your certification at that point,
Yes.
and then your last 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I see something very, very significant in that. In our own lives, where we have the power to, we should break it down into bite-sized chunks. But at the same time, we must be able to align ourselves into God's plan,
Yeah.
because He has the view that we don't even have
Knows the end from the beginning.
from the beginning.
And I love how you said that picture. God already has it.
Yeah, he does.
Penjani, you are done. If you're a billionaire, you already are. So
Amen.
the Lord goes, and then you start living in. Is it rewind or fast? Rewind. Is it
Yeah.
in fast forward? I don't know.
Yeah.
In Fidia.
Yeah.
Yes, you're now. God has gone. He has reached the end of Penjani's life,
Yeah.
and now He says Penjani start.
Yeah.
And that's why when He tells us to trust Him, it's because He's been there. Like, I love how TD Jake said, it's like you've watched a movie, and then you're watching it with me now, and I'm gasping like, oh my gosh, and Penjani's like, when I wear. She won't die. It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it all.
Yeah.
So when I think of God, and when God says, like you, Harriet, you're like, I'm about to throw in a towel, and God's like, what? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
You still have A, B, C, D. And like we always say on this show, nothing is ever wasted. Nothing.
yeah.
So even all those courses you took, maybe
Nothing wasted.
that
No,
there's this
never.
big job coming and you have the exact skills
Yeah.
that you need. So I
True.
think it's that blew my mind when you talked about
That's
the
really amazing. It reminds me
Yeah.
of the scripture that I was reading earlier today about how God answers us even before we pray. I think it's somewhere in Isaiah.
Wow.
So before you've even prayed.
Could it even be that he knows already
Yes, he
that you will be
does.
praying for something? So in Saint Benjamin in 2024 he's
Yes.
answered you because he
Yes.
knows, Benjamin at this point will
Instead
ask.
of
That's
Yes.
amazing.
He's been into our future.
Yeah.
He's already in there,
And he's also here.
and he is here. What a God!
Yeah.
What a God! And I remember when this revelation hit me some years ago when I was much younger, it made me realize that some of the things that we cry about today, or whatever our friends and brothers and sisters out there could be crying about, if we could tap into what God is doing. That young woman out there who is crying about a heartbreak, if you would know
the one the Lord has promised.
what the Lord has preserved you from,
Yes.
or
Or what
maybe
the Lord
for some
has for you.
people, actually for some people, let's flip it. For some people, perhaps what they really wanted maybe was not God's perfect will for their life.
Or it
So
wasn't
there
the
you
best.
are crying. Yes, there you are crying. Maybe somebody's out there and they're crying and they feel that, oh, I didn't make it into account. Or well, whatever they wanted to do, whatever they had on their plate. Sometimes God comes in to intercept because He knows that this path, this one here, you will flourish. This one, you'll be okay. But maybe you may not come into your full bloom.
Yeah.
Different things like that. So trust in the Lord, and remember the other time we talked about working with the Holy Spirit and things like that. But then earlier, Tahila, you talked about how you know that there's relatability with science and the Word of God. I'd like you to get into that maybe quickly in these last few minutes that we have.
It's a lot. I don't know what I would ask
Really?
Harriet, but today
What is the relationship between a cell and the Lord?
but Harriet, listen to this.
Yeah.
Listen to this. I always like to listen to Cindy Trimmer. She always talks about cycles of 7, and she's like, if you miss this opportunity, you gotta wait 7 years and blah blah. And I'm just like, sometimes just like, come on, God. And then I stumbled across an article, and you can correct me, and they were saying that it takes about 7 years for your cells to completely renew or something like that.
Okay, it depends on which cells.
Okay.
But yeah.
Some die and they are dead.
And they're not coming back.
yes. Like could you do my hair follicles top my
Yes.
edges?
Yes.
God. At a certain point,
So Harriet, after
They're
you can't
gone.
help those. But
there's a place of redemption.
then you have to tap into the miraculous of God. But I just found like, it just like raised an eyebrow, like, I have to do more research.
Yeah, well, it's just, I think, being in the medical field and also loving God and just being sold out for Him just really amazes you. It wows you because you're now in this world of science. And there's certain things that happen, in all honesty, that science can't explain. But then it's when I got into seeing the nitty-gritty and the detail of the body that made me think God is just amazing. It takes a proper designer, it takes an artist to create the human body.
Nice.
And no science really can explain that, in my opinion. I know there may be scientists out there who can explain what they find, but at the end of the day, God just really blows your mind.
And He is so detailed.
He's so
Very
detailed.
specific.
Yes, very specific.
For a
Something
long time,
has-
I've been talking about specifics. I
Yeah.
think I've been
God
made
is
reference to what you're
detailed.
saying about specifics. I'd like you to share one or two things in that regard about God in relatability to being specific and how we should translate that into our lives, whether it's through our prayer lives or planning and things like that. Over to you.
So if, say for example, this is really just getting it off the top of my head, I'm thinking of just the human body and where what should be. At what point should a certain nerve impulse be sent for the heart to beat so that it supplies your blood, your body? And all that
Be
is
still,
very
be still.
specific. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All that is really specific. I think there's so much detail into just the nerve impulse. even in itself is quite specific. When should the neurotransmitters be released? And at what point should they be released? But we won't get all technical.
Yeah.
But I know that God is so specific to the amount of the amount of maybe biochemical things that have to come out of the cell. So I think even in life, I know that everything that you go through is not something that's wasted. For me, the scripture that always comes to mind is God watches his word to perform it. He's there. He's like a hawk. He's actually looking at you and said, I said that word in your life, and I was very specific about it. It's going to happen, and it will happen when I have said it.
Glory.
But
Wait,
yeah,
it will happen when?
I have said
It will happen when? Amen. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Calm down.
And so you're there because I remember the times I'm just lying down and crying and telling God, why isn't this happening now?
Yeah.
Why has this happened to me now? But for him, he's sitting there and he says, if only you knew. You know, the thing about him is that he hugs you and he tells you it's going to be okay. But as he's hugging you, he's telling you it's not now. But it's okay. And then it's going to happen. And it does happen. And when it does, you're just in awe. And you're like, oh my God, I went through that for a purpose.
Yeah.
And the purpose is this and that. Sometimes we don't understand the purpose at that point.
Yeah.
But then eventually he's going to say, no, ta-la.
Oh,
This is what I meant. Yeah.
Perfect.
So he's very
timing.
specific. Yes, and he's very specific even to the latter, to the time, to the second.
amazing.
Yeah.
So we have to also be specific with God. For instance, in our prayer lives.
Yes. Actually, I remember saying, okay, God, I write my thoughts down in a book. So I'm like, God, I want
you have
this
time for
and
that?
this. Oh, yes.
Okay,
you
good.
know, okay, my brother and sister, we do have a life.
Yeah.
As medical doctors.
Okay.
No, I really thought that.
It just goes.
I just thought that maybe all day muscles.
No.
You're
no.
thinking that patient.
yeah.
We are, yes.
Okay.
Or to all the patients, we think of you,
Yeah.
but we also live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So the book.
Yeah, so I write down in my book, and okay, I'm quite radical with what I believe God has for me. And when He says something, I always go back like a child and say, "But you said, you told me this and this. You gave me this word." And so I go back to my book, and I'm like, "Okay, God, I want to finish at this age. I want to go to med school, and I want this to at least, please, let's finish roundabout here." But then I said, "No, I'm going to write it down." So what's amazing for me is that I said something about I think it was mid-year this year, that I want to finish this year just after my birthday, yeah, and only to find that I was being sworn in on my birthday. That is how specific God is.
Wow.
To the T and to the second, and then obviously the graduation came in
Yes.
later. But that just showed me that I need to be specific. So I said, I want this, Lord, and I know it's your will, but this is what I want because I'm your child.
Yes.
And so because I'm his favorite daughter, this is what happened.
Okay.
But Harriet even
No, these things we need to know.
right.
Okay.
So that's how it was. So I learned to be specific. I learned to be specific with my prayer life as well. Yes, to say, today I'm going to the hospital and I need you to just help me with my patients and the like. And I've learned really to be specific, and I've seen that He's a very specific God, so He answers those specific
Specifically.
prayers. Yes. Yeah, so it's just
Detailed.
It's awesome.
Yes.
It really is
Detailed.
awesome.
And I love that you being a doctor and the details. The body, as you're saying, you need such and such amount of oxygen, such and such amount of all these potassium, and just the balance. You're just like, and even when you're talking about in His time, which has been something that me and Miss P have been talking about the last couple of months, like dealing with God on His schedule.
Yeah.
And the minute you go off step, it's like everything kind of falls out of balance, and the Lord is like, not yet. I've said yes, but
Not now.
not now.
Okay.
And I was telling friends, and I had a revelation about my little nephew asking his dad for something, and his dad was preparing it, but he wanted it now. And I'm watching, and I'm like, but
He's preparing
preparing
it.
it.
You just don't know it.
You just don't know it.
Yeah.
And he couldn't see, so he's getting all these heart palpitations, and this is happening. And I told the girls, and I'm like, guys, that's us. You've prayed. God has said, even feel a release, even like, and then 2 days later, you're like,
Where
is it?
Why? Yes.
Why is it taking long?
Yes.
So you go back, and God's like, why are you back? I thought we discussed that it's already been done. And one thing I've realized is God, just because you can't see, doesn't mean it's not
Right.
done.
Yeah.
And Harriet, with what goes on in the body, there's so many things we can't see.
Okay.
But this machine or the heart is keeping you going, kidneys and blah blah. But we're not seeing. But it's also the body as well as faith. We know we sit here and we're like, my heart is pumping. We don't see it pumping, but we know it's pumping. Or maybe you can feel it pump and all that stuff. But you know your kidneys are working.
Yeah.
You can't see them, but you know your brain's working and all that stuff. So it's as if life demands a faith.
Yes, that's
It
true.
does.
Demands, like you
It
can't
does.
you can't go through life without some type of faith.
So
By default, you're a faith creature.
oh, I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. And
That
I
is
think
true.
some of these things hit you when you fall sick or when you see
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
become unwell. I remember I'll use an example of how all along you're able to walk,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you suffer a stroke and you have to think about your next step,
Yeah.
and somebody actually then has to help you to recalibrate and relearn certain things. So then you actually see that faith thing. So when I stand up, I'll
stand.
Yes, I'll stand. I will
Because
walk.
some people, their legs are filled.
Wow. So we must tap into what God has created us to already be. Faith.
Faith.
We need to have faith.
And even when you ask and request, when you know that God has heard and He has answered, the way Jesus always prayed, Lord, I know you hear me. Convinced God doesn't need to do
Done
anything
deal.
else. It's done. So to live like that. And
Yeah.
I feel like we have not exhausted Harriet.
Well, she could always come back on Thursday.
Yes, Harriet. Yes.
Thank you. So listeners, you're gonna do this again.
Yes, Harriet. Thursday, same time, 18:30.
We are
If you have
going
questions,
deeper, not
going
deeper, but deeper with
Deeper.
PAH. Yes, we're gonna
Have you
look
heard
into.
deep?
I like that.
Deep.
Again.
Yes. Deeper.
So we will be looking at issues of specifics and the relatability of God
And science.
and science. There's some interesting correlations. So I guess you will gather up some of the most significant for you.
Harriet, this is like
She's whispering
No.
something to me.
No,
May
but we
the
would
Lord
just
make
love.
a way. So I know the listeners are excited. If it doesn't work out Thursday, then we'll definitely have her back with
Tuesday
us
time.
on Tuesday. Okay, she says Tuesday is fine. So prepare your questions. You can find us on Facebook, Coffee Table Talks. Send us a message, and if you want to text, well, we're closing the lines around about now. So the best is for you to find us on Facebook, Coffee Table Talks. Send us your questions, whether it's about the last bit that we'll be talking about, or the battlefield of the mind, or if you are that person who is struggling with your dream and you know that this is what God has called me to do, but I'm stuck. And like Harriet, who perhaps had a financial breakthrough at a particular point, yours hasn't yet come through, and this is supposed to help you to pay for that and that and that and that. Please feel free to write in. And she is a great woman of faith and prayer. We will be glad to connect you to her, but also even us ourselves here at Coffee Table Talks, we'll be glad to pray with you. So it's been a great show.
Yes.
Thank
Dr.
you for sharing.
Harriet
Yeah.
Sakala.
Thank
All
you for
right.
sharing your world with us.
So we'll be on again on Thursday, 18:30, with another amazing show. So it's been your girl Tay
And Pinjani.
and
Dr. Harriet Sakala.
yes, thank you for joining us. You listeners out there, have a great evening. Until next time, I'll leave you with this song by our very own church from the Brave Only family. It's called Nkamubombele.
Straight out the cafe. Na 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 na.